been a lot of reports and a lot of things going on, and some of other and Elon's internet company has also been pulled into this ban now over in Brazil. So in an update on the X ban that we talked about last week, there has been some reports coming out of Brazil that some people are saying no to the ban. So I would imagine, and people are saying, and I quote, that they want free speech. So I imagine how they're doing that is kind of using VPNs to jump through and still be able to use an X or X as a platform. Also, Elon did repost this week a call for a Freedom March to take place this weekend on the September the 7th. That is Independence Day for Brazil. So also, we need to talk a little bit about Starlink as well. Starlink specifically, which is Elon's internet service provider, using his satellites up in the sky that's part of SpaceX, wouldn't comply with the ban originally when we started researching this, and then it came out that the team was then going to be making the following made the following tweet. The Starlink team is doing everything possible to keep you connected. Following last week's order by Alex that froze Starlink's finances and prevented Starlink from being able to conduct financial transactions in Brazil, they've immediately gone to the Brazilian Supreme Court to basically fight over and request and basically get a court junction to unfreeze their assets so they can continue to operate in Brazil, which is a large territory and a large market for them. Regardless of the illegal treatment of the Starlink freezing our assets, we will comply with the order to block access to X in Brazil. So it looks like Starlink kind of about turned to an extent. They looked to shift, or they looked to firstly try and fight it, and then after what it sounded like was going to be some sanctions from the regulator, that they then decided, okay, you're freezing our assets, okay, yeah, we're gonna comply, okay. But they have, as I said in that, as has been described in that tweet, that they have moved legal proceedings to the Brazilian Supreme Court to see if they can get a kind of injunction to basically counteract the previous court injunction. Talk specifically about unfreezing those assets for SpaceX as well. SpaceX has also gone a very similar approach to what we saw with X's HQ, which actually caused a lot of the legal issues for X and Elon in general in Brazil, because X has moved to evacuate employees from Brazil and warned others not to travel to the country. Reported by the Wall Street Journal was an update on the 4th of September, following them looking to remove all non-Brazilian employees, and in a very similar manner, as we said, to the X HQ reported last week. And a court said last week that the following quote again. The court then said last week that the ban on X would be staying and only lifted when the platform complied with its legal requirements to pay the fines and also appoint a legal representative in the country, which is a legal requirement under Brazilian law, which is actually the reason behind, and apologies, I'm going to issue a correction from last week's show because I didn't actually mention that element in the show, but there was in a similar way to what SpaceX did, when Elon removed shut down the HQ and evacuated all of his employees, in the process of doing that, it then meant X as a company didn't have a legal representative to basically stand in a court or be potentially prosecuted by a court for the removing the accounts and etc. that was requested by the court. So in that respect, it looks like SpaceX is also following suit. But interestingly, from the research I've done on this topic for the show, it does look like that government officials in Brazil have no interest, in fact, in the legal fight with X or SpaceX, and they're trying to send a clear message, in my view. The X accounts questioning, quote, misinformation, end quote. The main challenge that Elon will face, of course, is Starlink offering a internet service will need to apply or be given approval from each regulator of each country. And I imagine also that if the regulators deem it so, that they could also remove the approval as well down the line. It would probably require quite a lot of legal pushing through, but I do think that could be possible. So are we going to see a situation where potentially Elon has his freedom of speech kind of platform, which is X, that he wants it to be this open town square, kind of potentially removed or hold hostage over potentially him being able to operate Starlink in Brazil, which is, as I said earlier, is a pretty significant territory for him because of the nature of the country, in the respect to it's actually quite difficult to give internet access to the whole country just because of the layout of the country, and Starlink is one of the only providers that could actually give access. So what kind of market is that for him? Is that a big enough market, and will that potentially, again we don't know, but will that potentially skew him to maybe just say F it? I don't actually think it will, to be honest, but actually say F it, I am going to ban these accounts because Starlink being profitable is more important than X being profitable. That at the moment, as we've talked about in last show as well, but also there's more and more kind of evidence, and we're going to be talking a little bit more in next week's show about it, as it's in more and more trouble with its finances, with potentially advertisers potentially pulling out, and with I believe it was 4% or so feel that it's brand safe. So that kind of means there's only 96% that feel that X is not brand safe for them to advertise on, which will really hurt the X revenue model specifically. And I think that's also why Elon is looking to push that subscriber based model as well.